Man muss den Abri hier sehen. Da. Das muss man sehen.
Das?
Ja.
Bonjour à tous et toutes.
Bonjour. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes à Les Eyzies-de-Tayac et particulièrement à Laugerie Basse.
Merci beaucoup. Whatever said. Welcome to Stone Age Science. We are scientists investigating information encoding from the earliest science in the Paleolithic to the modern day information age. We take you with us on our journey to museums and universities, examining the mobile artifacts in their originals to understand the science of the Stone Age. In southwestern France, in the Dordogne, there is a small village, Les Eyzies-de-Tayac, which is nestled in between the Vézère River and the limestone cliffs. Les Eyzies-de-Tayac only has around 1,000 inhabitants, but it has the highest density of sites relevant for Paleolithic archaeology in the whole world. In the direct surroundings of this village you find Abri Pataud, for instance, Abri Cro-Magnon, where the famous Cro-Magnon human was found. You have Laugerie Haute and Laugerie Basse. You have Grotte du Sorcier. And other sites which are maybe a bike ride away, such as La Ferrassie, La Micoque, Le Moustier. So different sites which have even given names to particular techno-complexes. So it is no surprise that there is also an important museum in Les Eyzies-de-Tayac, the Musée national de Préhistoire, where you have hundreds and hundreds of artifacts which are deliberately marked, deriving from different sites around Les Eyzies-de-Tayac and southwestern France in general. For our project, SignBase, this is an extremely important museum to visit, so we were really happy to be hosted by Catherine Cretin. She is the collection manager for the Upper Paleolithic period and an expert herself on this particular time period. To start with, we were intrigued and interested to have a closer look at the so-called burial of Saint-Germain-La-Rivière.
Ici, on a le squelette de Saint-Germain-La-Rivière, découvert en 1934 par Blanchard, qui, dans son relevé, le présentait en fait entre ces blocs. En fait, elle était pour lui découverte dans un coffre de pierre, ce qui semble maintenant, ce qu'on met sérieusement en cause. On pense que c'est un artefact naturel, un phénomène naturel. Et c'est pour ça que là on présente les blocs d'un côté et le squelette de l'autre. Et ce squelette avait été trouvé avec cette fameuse parure d'une soixantaine de craches de cervidés, dont certaines comportent les petites annotations, les petites marques qui semblent toutes un petit peu différentes les unes des autres, chacune particulière. C'est un squelette qui a été étudié et donc il s'avère que c'est une femme d'une trentaine d'années et puis couvert d'ocre, ce sont des ossements qui sont couverts d'ocre et il y a eu des dates assez récentes qui approchent effectivement un âge d'à peu près 16 000 non calibrés, voilà, ce qui fait qu'on est dans du magdalénien moyen, si je ne me trompe pas, magdalénien moyen ancien.
Catherine was as kind as to remove these deer teeth from the showcases for us and also support us in general studying the teeth. At this trip we were joined by Josh London, who is a PhD student in Tübingen with Sibylle Wolf, and he is interested to study the traces on these artifacts in terms of where the teeth derive from different areas or the same area. So essentially picking up on the work that has been done already back in 2005 by Marian van Haren and Francesco Dedico. Our workflow was such that Catherine would provide us with a tooth and then Josh would scan it with a portable 3D scanner in order to produce a 3D model of it, which can be used for further analyses and even to print it in 3D.
So you gotta get a couple of each one because there's gonna be little holes and problems. It's pretty good.
The tooth would then be handed on to Eva, who would scan it, study it under the microscope in order to also produce high-resolution pictures and mainly also to identify the different kinds of signs you would find on different parts of the tooth. And these sign types would then be entered into the SignBase database. So this was our workflow for around 3 days. That's what it took us to register all of the 70 or so teeth. In fact, Catherine found some which were not in the earlier publications. The museum would always close in between 12:30 and 2 o'clock, so we had the time to get some food and have a stroll around the village. Back at the museum, Catherine gave us a tour so we could identify further artifacts in the showcases which we might want to study. And in general, this is just a fantastic museum for everybody who is interested in the Paleolithic time period and the people and how they lived in these times. One very special installation in this museum is the so-called fil du temps, so literally a timeline, namely of all the different techno-complexes of stone tools that have been found in the different sites around this area by traditional archaeologists like Denis Perroni. So we were in the museum for several days scanning artifacts and the weather was beautiful, sunshine all the time. We couldn't even see it. And now it's the weekend, we wanted to visit some caves and the weather is just absolutely awful. However, still, Les Eyzies-de-Tayac is really beautiful, even in the rain. Our first stop was La Micoque. This site is only around 10 minutes away from Les Eyzies-de-Tayac by car, and it has the deepest stratigraphy in the whole region of the Périgord, reaching back to 400,000 years ago. The people, the hominins who lived here 400,000 years ago to 280,000 years ago, likely Neanderthals, gave rise to what is called the Micoquien techno-complex. Another famous Neanderthal site is Le Moustier, named after the village in midst of which this site is found. It was excavated already back in the late 19th century by Henry Christie and Edouard Lartet, and then in 1869 Gabriel de Mortillier was able to define the so-called Mousterian techno-complex based on their original excavations. This is also a site where Neanderthal individuals have been found, first by Otto Hauser in 1908, an adolescent Neanderthal, and then later on by Denis Perroni in 1914, a newborn Neanderthal. Just around the corner from Le Moustier, there is Roque Saint-Christophe, which is mainly known as a so-called troglodyte site, so people living here even in historical times, in the Middle Ages, in this abri, in the rock face. At some point, around 1,000 people apparently lived here together. They had their own water supply, at least for some time, and then a church and even a lift. What do you think, Eva? Would it be a nice place to live at?
Absolutely. It's beautiful. Great view. Good temperature. Water very close. I like it. Das ist Paläolithikerland.
Our last stop on this day was Castel Merle. This is a narrow valley where you have rock cliffs on both sides. And it's a particular place because you can imagine how this was almost like a neighborhood back in Paleolithic times. Sites like Abri Castanet and Abri Blanchard are here next to one another, so close that you could even shout to your neighbor if you wanted something from them.
Hey Josh, do you have some ivory left? I want to make a moon calendar.
Oh, it's a shame. You're just like 20 to 18,000 years a little too late, but
Oh, too bad.
The next day the weather was dry again, and Josh and myself, we wanted to visit some more abris and caves. Among them, most importantly, La Ferrassie. It's famous for its long stratigraphy from Neanderthal times, from the Middle Paleolithic to modern humans and the Upper Paleolithic. Around 45,000 years ago, Neanderthals still lived here. There are depositions of Neanderthal bodies, 7 depositions in this site. There is a techno-complex still attributed to the Neanderthals at around this time. And then at around 39,000 years ago, we have the so-called Châtel-Perronien techno-complex, which is considered a transitional industry in between modern humans and Neanderthals, with an unclear attribution in terms of the hominin producing it. My favorite site so far, at least in terms of its surroundings, is Grotte du Sorcier, also called Grotte du Sorcier. You are walking past a mill pond and then through a dense bamboo forest. You feel almost like in Southeast Asia, just to then re-enter the realm of southwestern France with beautiful yellow rock cliffs and troglodyte houses. Ironically, I've been there twice now and I couldn't enter the cave, so a good reason to come back to Les Eyzies. This was part 1 of our visit to Les Eyzies. In part 2, we are going to see more artifacts in the museum. We are going to visit Laugerie Basse and Laugerie Haute, as well as Abri du Poisson, and finally La Madeleine. And you're going to see a salamander. Thanks for watching this video. I hope to see you next time.